Spencer Dutton finally makes his long-awaited return to Montana. With only 2 episodes left in the season, the stakes have never been higher. One character won't live to see the finale, and the war that's been brewing since the very first episode is about to explode in ways no one saw coming. Get ready for the most action-packed and emotional episode of 1923 yet. So let's break it all down. After the intense shootout at the Yellowstone Ranch in Episode 5, the Duttons are picking up the pieces literally and figuratively. Jacob survived, thank goodness, but the ranch suffered serious damage. The attack from Donald's men was just the beginning, though. What's coming next is going to make that shootout look like child's play. As I predicted last week, a Dutton family member did fall during the attack. Though many of you guessed it would be Jack or Elizabeth, it was actually one of the ranch hands who had been with the family since Season 1. His death has with Jacob focused solely on preparing for Donald's next attack. Kara has taken over the day-to-day operations of the ranch. She has also become a surrogate mother to Elizabeth, whose pregnancy is progressing but not without complications. The stress of the attack and Jack's increasing involvement in the ranch's defense has taken a toll on Elizabeth's health. The doctor has ordered her to rest completely, which is nearly impossible given the circumstances. There's a heartbreaking scene where Elizabeth confesses to Kara that she's afraid not just for herself or the baby, but for the entire Dutton legacy. "What kind of world are we bringing this child into?" she asks Kara, who has been trying to steal his family's land, or see it as a trap. Based on what we know about Spencer, I think we all know the answer. The answer to that, speaking of Spencer, his journey with Tiana takes an unexpected turn when they run into a group of travelers heading to Wyoming. Among them is a familiar face from Spencer's past, a soldier he served with during the war. This reunion should be a happy one, but it quickly becomes clear that Spencer's old friend is hiding something. The way he keeps glancing at Tiana, the questions he asks about their destination, it all adds up to something suspicious. Spencer notices it too, and there's this incredible moment of tension where it reveals just how long he's been preparing for this possibility. "My brother always told me to have a place where no one could find us," he tells Kara, referring, of course, to James Dutton from 1883. The cabin is stocked with supplies, hidden from view, and defensible, a last resort that Jacob hopes they won't need. The fact that he's showing it to Kara now tells us just how serious the situation has become. Meanwhile, the tension between Banner and Donald reaches its breaking point. Banner, after learning about Spencer's imminent return and seeing the increasingly brutal tactics Donald is willing to use, finally stands up to his boss. Wants to leave should do so now, with no shame or judgment. What happens next shows the true strength of the Dutton legacy. Not a single person leaves. Instead, they begin further fortifying the ranch, preparing for a siege that could last days or even weeks. The preparations are intercut with scenes of Donald gathering his forces. He's hired additional men, professional gunfighters with no conscience, and balance the safety of the ranch with the future of the Dutton lineage. Her solution is to suggest that Elizabeth be moved to the hidden cabin Jacob showed her earlier. Elizabeth initially refuses, unwilling to leave Jack while he's recovering, but Jack himself insists. "Our child comes first," he tells her. Though it breaks her heart, she agrees to go. The scene where Kara and 2 trusted ranch hands escort Elizabeth to the cabin climax. Spencer and Tiana, guided by Running Wolf's directions, have managed to avoid the main trails and are getting closer to the Montana border. Spencer's condition has stabilized thanks to the medicine provided by Running Wolf, but he's still weak. They're traveling at night to avoid detection, which makes their progress slower but safer. During one of their rest stops, Tiana tells Spencer more about her own story, the school, the abuse she's and a young Native woman who passed through 2 days earlier, headed north. Banner is about to leave when the trader mentions something else. Another man had been asking the same questions just hours before. The description he gives matches Donald's gunman exactly, Banner's expression says all the race is even more urgent than he thought. Donald's gunman is methodical in his pursuit. He follows Banner's trail easily, keeping just far enough behind to avoid detection. There's something chilling about his patience, his absolute confidence that he'll catch up to his targets eventually. At one point, he stops at the same trading post Banner visited, and Donald has hired. Back at the Yellowstone, the tension has reached its peak. Lookouts have spotted riders approaching from the direction of town, a large group, too many to be friendly. Jacob orders everyone into their defensive positions. The ranch house becomes a fortress, with furniture barricaded against the windows and armed men at every possible entry point. Kara helps Jack to his position despite his injuries, and there's a moment of quiet understanding between them. "We've been here before," she tells him, referring to previous attacks on the ranch, "and we're still standing." It's a reminder of the Dutton resilience, their ability to weather whatever storms come their way. The three storylines converge in an abandoned town near the Montana border. Spencer and Tiana arrive first, planning to rest briefly before making the final push across the border. The town is eerily. Spencer, Banner, and Tiana are outmatched.